Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So I recently had a copy of the new Springfield Armory TRP 4.25 cc 1911 here for testing and review, which I did. I'll put a link to that full review here if you haven't seen it yet. But I also wanted to take the opportunity to compare it to another similar 1911 in terms of reputation and price point, but with a different approach. That gun is the Wesson TCP. But you probably read the title of this video, and you already know that, don't you? Okay, so like I said, they're obviously similar in a lot of ways, but very different in others. That's what makes this comparison more of a study in different ways to approach a 1911 build. I'll tell you when I prefer something about one gun over the other, when I think it's meaningful. But mostly, I just hope to give you a fun look at the two along with some good information. If you've got almost $2,000 burning a hole in your pocket and you think a commander-sized 1911 is what you need, sit back and enjoy while I show you two of the best and tell you about them. Okay, thoughts while shooting both. I'm going to start out with the Wesson TCP. So we have that blacked out rear sight, which I like a lot, and the front sight has a brass bead, which actually is pretty effective in daylight, but of course wouldn't be worth much in the dark. Very comfortable gun. I like the grips. Has that 30 lines per inch checkering in the front strap and back strap, which feel really nice. And they get the job done as far as keeping it planted in your hand. Springfield TRP. So the sights on the TRP are night sights. They are tritium, 3-dot configuration. Nice effective sight picture, and certainly going to be good at night because of the tritium. This gun has the 20 lines per inch checkering that is very aggressive and can be uncomfortable, to be honest. Back to the TCP. Sight is a little taller, the rear sight on this gun. This does not have an ambidextrous safety. It does have a mag well. TRP does not have a mag well, but it does have that bobbed grip. So potentially better carry gun in terms of concealment. The TCP, the grips are flatter and not as aggressively textured. But again, it's not moving in my hand, so it is getting the job done. The trigger is really nice on this TCP. All right, TRP, in terms of the trigger feel, also very good. Maybe not quite as crisp as the TCP. And it might be heavier, but I'll put a gauge on them both. I'm doing a good job hitting my targets with both guns. I'm shooting at my standard steel array downrange that are 6-inch squares, and I'm hitting a whole lot more than I'm missing with both guns. So pretty much even there. I will put some on paper here in a minute, and we'll take a look at that. The top of the slides on both of these guns are serrated for anti-glare. And the TRP probably is going to win out in the aesthetics department, but again, that's very, very subjective. Just because it's got so much going on with the coyote color and the grips. But there is something to be said for that black, relatively unadorned look. So very much a eye of the beholder situation there. Well, that's not good. I like bangs, not clicks. I'm just basically looking for it to go bang and go straight. All right, I'm going to try to restrike this. All right, let's see what's going on here. I'm shooting the 3 magazines that come with the TRP, but I also threw in a Mekgar into the mix. I wasn't counting my shots, and it just did not lock the slide open on that last round, and that was again with the Mekgar magazine. I measured the pull on these 2 triggers after I did my range work. My finger was pretty accurate in telling me that the Dan Wesson has the lighter trigger, significantly so. The TCP broke at an average of 3 pounds, 9.6 ounces. The TRP waited for the scale to reach just over 5 pounds before letting the hammer drop. The TRP has night sights. The TCP has what it calls competition sights. The TCP has that magwell for faster and more accurate reloads, but it adds some height. The TRP has a bobbed backstrap for better concealment and a great profile. The TRP comes with 3 7-round magazines. The TCP comes with 2 8-rounders with base pads. The TRP has 20 lines per inch checkering. It digs into your skin and provides a great hold on the gun, but I've seen even tough men fight back the tears when holding it. The TCP has 25 lines per inch checkering. I misspoke once or twice and said 30, but it is 25. It provides fantastic grip without that sharp feeling. Okay, I'm going to put a magazine full on paper from each one of these guns just to see if there's one of the 2 that I shoot better. Again, this test is just somewhat subjective. I'm going to do my best, of course, with both guns to try and make the best group I can make and take pride in my shooting. But is there something about one gun that maybe makes me shoot it a little bit better? We'll find out. If there is, if it's fairly clear that I shoot one better, I like to try and figure out why that might be. So, if nothing else, and I encourage this when you go to the range with your guns, I encourage you to think about it in those terms too, because sometimes you learn a little bit about the kind of guns that are best suited to you, or just about your own shooting style, and that is always good knowledge to have. All right, here we go. Starting with the Springfield Armory TRP. 7 rounds. Remington UMC 230 grain ball. All right, that was 7 of those. Slide didn't lock back on the last round, and that is with the Springfield magazine. Now the TCP from Dan Wesson, going to the dot on the right. 7 of these also, just keeping it even. Ah, didn't like the ejection of that last one. Kind of slammed me in the forehead. All right, those are the 2 groups. They look fairly similar from back here. I'll have to take a closer look at them. The TRP has a GI guide rod. The TCP has a full-length guide rod. TRP has a traditional recoil spring. The TCP has a flat wire long life recoil spring. I don't know the weights of either of the springs. Okay, range report, head-to-head, TRP and TCP. TRP from Springfield Armory, TCP from Dan Wesson. Both very comparable guns in their build and design. They're both 4.5-inch commander-sized 1911s. They both have extremely good tolerance fits. They're made very well, both of them. But they differ in their approach to maybe the concept of what makes the best 1911. So thinking about it just from having shot both of these guns, you know, a couple hundred rounds at the range, the Springfield TRP seems to be all about not just the tactical, which is what the T stands for, but just the way it feels. It feels grippy. You know, the texture is very aggressive in that 20 line per inch pointy checkering out front that some people don't like, and I know that, and I can find it sometimes a little more than I want. And then at other times, I find it to be absolutely perfect, especially on a hot summer day. The TCP seems to be a little bit more subdued, a little bit more kind of like a sleeper in terms of its design. It's like, yeah, it's pretty plain. We're not going to adorn it with a lot of stuff. It's just basically all black. The sights on both guns are good. The TRP has more practical sights. It has that 3-dot combat sight picture, and more importantly, it has tritium in the sights. So they are night sights. So again, certainly more practical. If you're going to carry a 1911, I think between the bobtail and the night sights, the TRP is certainly more suited for a carry gun. I like the feel of the trigger on the TCP better. Partly, it may be because of the brake or the weight, which I haven't measured yet, and I will. I may have already shown you that part. But it's very likely just the geometry, because it's a flat-faced trigger, and that flat-faced trigger really feels good to me. I really could notice the difference when I was shooting between that curved trigger that's on the TRP and the flat-faced trigger of the TCP. And between the two, I prefer the flat trigger. They both did fantastic. They both performed really well. I had a couple of failures to lock the slide back on the TRP, one with a Metgar magazine and one with the stock Springfield Armory magazine. So I'm not quite sure what might be the issue there. As far as accuracy, you saw those two groups. I took a closer look at them when I went and took that target down. That was at 13 yards. And I can't remember the last time I shot two groups that were so similar and consistent as those two. they were like, the shot placement was slightly different, on the clock face, but boy, it was almost identical in every other way. That definitely puts them at a pretty good tie. All right, so that's it. Those are my thoughts at the range. Wrapping it up here, gonna pack it up and get out of here and enjoy the rest of this very beautiful spring day. I hope you're doing the same thing. I'll talk to you more from back in the studio. Both guns have fully supported feed ramps. The TRP has a traditional 4 1/4 inch standard barrel. The TCP has a 4-inch bull barrel. And the TCP does not use a barrel bushing. Both guns have an alloy frame for reduced weight. The TRP has an ambidextrous safety, and it's a nice one. The TCP has a safety for the right thumb only. Springfield has gone with a curved-faced polymer trigger, and it feels very different from the straight-faced aluminum trigger of the TCP. And I won't lie, I like the TCP trigger much better. The new TRP lists for $1,998. The TCP MSRP is $1,849. All right, now it's time to take a look around the room, find the prettiest girl, and ask her to dance, because I'm going to play the song of my people. Goes just like that. So do I have a favorite? Well, they're very closely matched, and their differences in many ways are design choices for the market as they see it or the customers that they're trying to appeal to. But I don't own the TRP 4.25cc, and I do own the Dan Wesson TCP, and I'm okay with that. Hey, let me know what you think in the comments below. I like to read them and even chime in on the discussion. You can really support the channel and help me keep content flowing by just hitting the like button and being a subscriber. Look down in the description of this video. You'll see some links and discount codes. They are there to provide you savings on products that I use and like. And in some cases, they will also send some money back to the channel and help me out. This is just an opinion. Thanks for watching.